Now, your weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Jesse Gunkel.
So keeping an eye on the two systems, we got a big cluster of clouds out here, and that, my friends, is Laura. And as you see here, it's expected to track itself across Cuba tonight and move into those open waters. And because of Laura, not Marco, that's why they've issued these watches. As you notice, all areas in the pink, that is a hurricane watch. Expect hurricane conditions within the next 48 hours. Same thing for us. West Baton Rouge, mainly everything on the western side of the Mississippi, Point Capee all the way down to the coastline, currently underneath a tropical storm watch. So here is that current track, and you see moving across Cuba, potentially by Tuesday, as you see here, winds at 60 miles per hour. By the time we get to late Tuesday, 70, Category 1, and then it rapidly intensifies to a Category 2 just before landfall, sometime very late on Wednesday or early on Thursday, and then drives through the same, potentially near Fort Polk as a Category 2, and then moves northward. But I do want to point out, notice right along the Mississippi River, we're kind of in that cone. Now again, this is not the cone of impact, this is the cone of path, meaning it could shift back or forth in the long term. So again, impacts could be pretty great here in the capital area if we continue to see things move and progress the way the system is currently moving. As you notice overall, you'll see that we get a couple showers heading into your Tuesday. By the time we move into Wednesday morning, you can see just the outskirts right now of Laura. A couple showers kind of building inland, and then you see by the time we get to very late on Wednesday, just before midnight, makes landfall just south of Lake Charles and Cameron Parish. But notice some of these feeder bands, and that's going to be our biggest concern. Even at that point, we're looking at winds, most likely hurricane strength for a few miles, maybe about 30 to 40 miles from the center, but tropical storm force winds could extend 90 miles from the center. So from Lake Charles, we could get some pretty strong winds in place. So Hurricane Laura right now, winds sustained at 145, but they're currently flying through the system right now, and it looks like they may have found winds up to 150 to 155 miles per hour. And would you believe it? 157 is a Category 5. So again, we're right on the verge of becoming a Category 5 storm just before landfall. Again, it may just be a short cycle out there. We got a little bit of shear. You can kind of see it fan off a little bit, but still, it's still bubbling up in a lot of areas and it's kind of condensing again here. So we'll just have to see if we see that banding. It's a very large eye with little vortices kind of stuck in the middle. You can almost see the, where you call it, the blue, the white, to the green, to the yellow. That's that stadium effect with this large eye. And you notice it's starting to make more of a wobble almost directly north at this point. So we could see a little bit of a shift further towards the east. And you got to remember these impacts are far reaching, but notice what happens. If that system walks a few miles towards the east, our impacts are going to be greater here in the capital area. You see Category 4, potentially a weak Category 5, but overall still very destructive and life-threatening. But here, wind gusts 175 miles per hour, and it really isn't too far from the coast. Still expecting landfall right around midnight or slightly after. You see by the time we get to about 2, and I'm showing you this model because it's kind of giving us a pretty good indication as to what you're going to see. We got that first band to come through. It picked up on that. Now, watch what happens. As the system climbs through the state, it starts to drift a little bit back towards Alexandria. Some of those heavy feeder bands sit on top of us. And the concern is more tornadoes quickly getting spawned from these type of bands because there's a lot of wind shear and heavy rainfall at times. It's tropical air. We could easily see 3, maybe 6 inches of rain over a very short period of time. And as you notice, that is all morning from about 2 a.m. to about 9, 10. We could be dealing with showers. So you start to do the math at this point, and you're talking anywhere from 6 to 12 plus inches of rainfall possible in some locations. Now, when you look at the big picture here overall, I want to point out that there was a lot of accuracy, which was actually pretty good. They narrowed it down, landfall 3 days in advance. There was only about 1 kilometer error, which is kind of crazy. Now, we did luck out, and as the governor said, hey, we can breathe a sigh of relief. Why weren't those levels so high? We were calling for unsurvivable storm surge at 20 feet. Well, the reason is because it wobbled at the end. It was a very wide eye, and guess what happened? It didn't come up Lake Calcasieu, which actually sits just south of Lake Charles. That same waterway system goes up into Lake Charles where the actual city sits. Well, because it was just a few miles, just that little, kept it from getting to 20 feet storm surge from what that hair track was going to take it just to the west.